My name is Grace, and I am 25 years old. I live in a small town in the United States, and for most of my adult life, love was a foreign concept to me. I wasn't ugly, and I wasn't rude. I had a decent job at a local office, I paid my bills, and tried to be kind to everyone. But still, I was always alone. The people around me told me it was so easy. All my high school friends were married or in serious relationships. They posted pictures of engagements, babies, and anniversaries. Every time I scrolled through social media, I felt like I was losing some race I never signed up for. I went on dates, but none of them lasted. Some men dumped me after a cup of coffee. Others said I was too serious or not exciting enough. It hurt, but I learned to hide the pain behind a smile. My mom used to say, maybe you're just too picky, but I didn't think that was true. I wasn't asking to be a movie star or a billionaire. I just wanted someone kind, someone who looked at me like I mattered. Was that too much? There were nights when I cried myself to sleep, nights when I stared at the ceiling and asked God why everyone else found love so easy. I wondered if there was something wrong with me. I questioned my worth. I started to think that maybe love just wasn't for me. I remember one night distinctly. I had just come from a friend's wedding. Everyone was dancing, laughing, taking pictures with their partners. I sat at the table, smiling politely, sipping my drink, pretending I wasn't the only one there. I didn't cry on the way home. I was too tired to cry. I just felt lonely. It wasn't like I wasn't trying. I logged on to dating apps. I went to events. I dressed up, rehearsed conversation starters, and kept an open mind. But nothing worked. The men I liked never liked me back. And the ones who did were often insensitive or disrespectful. Then came the worst night. I overheard two coworkers talking in the break room. They didn't know I was there. One of them said, "She's really cute, but I don't think she'll ever find a boyfriend." "She's too plain." I walked away quietly, holding back tears. I'll never forget that. I stopped trying. I deleted all the dating apps, stopped going to events, and threw myself into work. I figured if I couldn't find love, I might as well do something else. So I worked longer hours, took on extra projects, and avoided people. I told myself I was happy being single, but deep down, I wasn't. Then one morning, everything started to change, although I didn't know it yet. I spilled coffee on my shirt at work and had to run to the supply closet for paper towels. That's where I met Jeremy. He was new, a quiet man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He was holding a box of office supplies and trying to balance a coffee cup on it. When he saw my stained shirt, he smiled 000409 and handed me a napkin from his cup holder. "Looks like you've had a rough morning," he said with a smile. I smiled back, a little. "You could say that." We talked for a few minutes. Nothing serious, just small talk about the weather, the noisy printer, and the bad coffee in the break room. But something about his calm voice and kind eyes stuck with me. For the first time in a long time, I returned to my desk feeling a little lighter. Since that first meeting in the closet, I had begun to pay more attention to Jeremy. He worked in IT and had recently transferred from another department. He wasn't active or loud, but there was something comforting about him, like a warm blanket on a cold day. Every time he passed my desk, he nodded or smiled. Sometimes we would chat a little in the break room, always about simple things, coffee, weekend plans, or funny stories from office life. It wasn't love at first sight. Everything was slow, natural, and tender. After so many disappointments, I had trained my heart not to have high hopes. But deep down, a little hope was starting to form. One Thursday evening, when most of the employees left early, I stayed late to finish a report. Jeremy walked past my office and asked, "Still working late?" I laughed a little, Trying to impress the boss or at least avoid a panic on Monday. He smiled. Mind if I join you? I'm fixing the server, but the reboot will take a while. I nodded and he walked in. We talked for almost an hour. I learned that he liked to go to the park near his house every evening and read detective novels. He had two younger brothers, and like me, he grew up in a small town. He listened when I spoke, really listened, not just waited for his turn to speak. He looked at me like I mattered. And for the first time in a long time, I felt noticed and like someone was genuinely interested in learning about my life. I went home that night with a strange feeling that maybe, just maybe, something had changed. Over the next few weeks, Jeremy and I grew closer. We started having lunch together at work. We shared stories about our childhoods, our dreams, even our disappointments. I told him about my bad dates and how I'd given up on love. I expected him to laugh or pity me, but he didn't. Instead, he said, Grace, I don't think you're hard to love. I think the right people just haven't seen your heart. Those words touched something deep inside me. I'd been waiting for someone to say that for years. One day he asked me if I wanted to have dinner with him after work. My heart sank, but I kept my cool. Sure, I said, trying not to sound too loud. We went to a quiet little diner. Nothing fancy, just hot food and nice conversation. He was easy to be around. There was no pressure to impress, no fear of judgment. I could be real with him. After dinner, we went outside. It was chilly, and he offered me his jacket. He draped it over my shoulders, looked me in the eyes, and quietly said, Grace, I like you a lot. I've never met anyone like you. I didn't know what to say. I was just in shock. No one had ever said this to me with such honesty. And I told the truth. I like you too. That night, he held my hand for the first time. It was simple, pure, and real. The days that followed were filled with a joy I hadn't felt in years. Jeremy treated me like I was special. Not in a dramatic way, but in the quiet moments that mattered. He remembered the little things, like how I drank my coffee or what book I was reading. He always made time for me, even on the most stressful and difficult days. He respected my boundaries and made me feel safe. He didn't play games. He didn't make me feel like I had to deserve his attention. He gave it freely, with warmth and sincerity. And most importantly, he never made me feel like I had to change. For the first time in my life, I felt chosen. Not because I was perfect, but because I was me. But as happy as I was, there was still a part of me that wasn't sure. I'd been let down so many times before. What if this, too, would only last for a short time? One night, I was sitting on the couch, staring at my phone. Jeremy texted me, I want you to meet someone special, my mom. My heart was pounding. I wasn't sure I was ready. But when I saw him the next day, he smiled and said, I told her about you. She's excited. I've never introduced her to anyone before. That's when I realized he was serious, that this wasn't a game. I smiled back, tears welling up in my eyes. I would love to meet her. Meeting Jeremy's mom was the moment it all became real. Her name was Miranda, and she greeted me with the warmest hug I'd ever received. She made us tea, shared old stories about Jeremy, and by the end of the evening, I felt like I'd been a part of their family for years. Jeremy sat next to me, holding my hand the whole time. I noticed the way he looked at me as I spoke. There was a quiet pride in his eyes, like he was lucky to just be sitting next to me. After we left his mom's house, he turned to me in the car and said, I told her you were the one I've been waiting for. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I'd waited so long to hear something like that. All the pain, all the rejection, all the nights I cried alone, suddenly made sense. It was like my heart was waiting for him. Jeremy wasn't a prince from a fairy tale. He didn't ride in on a white horse and sweep me off my feet with magic. What he gave me was better: consistency, trust, and love that was shown every single day. We laughed together. We supported each other through tough times. He inspired me to follow my dreams. He reminded me that I was enough not only for him, but for myself. One evening, we sat on a park bench and watched the sunset. Jeremy turned to me and said, "You know, Grace, you've changed the way I look at life. You love so much, even after all the pain you've been through. That's powerful." I smiled. I used to think that no one would ever want me, but now I realize that I was just waiting for someone to truly see me. He kissed my forehead softly, and I do. I see you, all of you, and I like everything I see. That moment changed everything for me. I no longer felt like the girl who was passed over. I was the woman who had been through heartbreak, grown stronger, and finally found love. Sometimes people ask how we met. I always smile and say, over some spilled coffee and small talk. But the truth is, we met when I was finally ready to believe that I was worthy of love. Not just any love, but real, honest, deep love. The kind that doesn't require change from you, but supports you despite all your flaws and fears. Looking back, I don't regret the years of loneliness. They taught me patience. They taught me how to love myself first. And most importantly, they taught me that true love doesn't come suddenly. It comes when you're ready. Now, Jeremy and I are building a life together. We talk about marriage, about family, and about growing old side by side. Every morning when I wake up and see his sleepy smile, I thank God for not giving up. Because when love finally found me, it was everything I ever dreamed of, simply filled with peace and deep meaning. To anyone who feels invisible, unwanted, or unloved, please don't give up. Your story is not over. The right person will come along who won't love you, despite your past, but because of it. They will love your strength, your way, and your heart. My name is Grace. I was 25 when I thought I would be alone forever. But love chose me, and it will choose you too. Have you ever imagined yourself in a situation like this? And I know there could be so many different things going on in your head. What did you do about it? Subscribe to this channel, like it, and hit the notifications to get more interesting stories like this.